So, let's begin with new series. The series name is, What If Naruto Fall in Love with Mirko? This is first part of the series, so do not wasting any more time, let's start the video. You must never let your guard down while on duty, or else it could mean the end of you, rough. That was the word spoken by the hunting dog hero, hound dog who led the way on a busy snowy street of civilians for one particular bunny, or more so heroine, training. Unlike him wearing his Norma hero uniform, the other wore a warmer hero outfit that had leggings with other attachments, while light snow fell from above with said hero having a smile glued to her face, filled with nothing but confidence. Yeah, a smile was stuck on her face. As heroes, we gotta always be prepared for the worst. Besides, her smile grew as her right fist was caught by her left hand. Any villains that dare to start something will instantly regret it. The hero merely nods at her words, agreeing to them while his in turn was giving small waves to the kids that had passed by her with their parents. Name, Rumi Yusujiyama/hero name, Rabbit Hero, Mirko/age, 16/student UA High School, rough. That's what I want to hear. With a nod he leads the way, both still on patrol. As a hero, in an instant, Mirko had frozen in place just as Hound Dog did. Unlike everyone walking as if everything was normal, the two had been on the receiving end of an aura that their animal senses were being overcome by. A feeling of dread and utter despair that caused the dog hero to fall to his knees as his animal instincts were screaming at him as much as they were at Mirko. Yet unlike the dog, the rabbit, on the other hand, mustered up a shaky smile. Whatever is causing my rabbit's survival instincts to go crazy, instantly she hopped to it, must be a very dangerous villain. Jumping from her spot and away from the hero training her, towards an alleyway she entered, jumping on the walls to increase the speed where she flew out from it, where she found the sight of a car having hit a telephone pole that luckily didn't fall. Standing next to the vehicle was a man who had a torn-off door next to him, and he was reaching inside the vehicle. Villain! She was already launching herself straight for the figure who was helping an elderly man get out, his back turned towards her while she was raising her right leg, shocking the few who saw this as she closed in. But at that moment the person had instantly turned, taking in his face, blonde spiky hair, whisker makes, red eyes, and nothing as her consciousness fades. In the instant she made eye contact with the person, he had brushed off her kick, as if swatting a fly quickly that made it look like she had missed before having her face collide with the stop sign, causing many to flinch as they soon enough watch her slide down, now unconscious as she hit the ground, the blonde man staring at the bunny in confusion just like the old civilian. The hell is going on today? He muttered while letting go of the man who was now out of his vehicle, visibly shaking at the fact he almost hit someone, yet the man seemed unaffected as he placed the girl against the car, confused why she attacked Mirko. The shout came from the alleyway as the two men turned to see the hound hero running out on all fours, turning to see the sight of her unconscious next to the two staring at her, and runs up to them, now high alert as he saw the man which the blonde spoke. You mind telling me why she suddenly attacked me? This question confused the hero, yet his eyes narrow as he knows he was the source of that malice, yet also at the fact he knew who exactly the man was, watching as he turned to the driver. Since a hero is here, I'll leave you to tell him what happened. After saying that, he turns to look at the hero who was visibly shaken as he raises his right hand that was completely bandaged, and lets it rest on his shoulder. As a hero, keep a better eye on your student. That was all that was said as he removes his hands and starts walking away with his hands going in his pockets, while the hero, who if he could have been sweating at this point, and turns to look at Mirko who was unconscious, sighing to himself. It's good seeing you again, Tucci, the blonde-haired man said while he sat at a ramen restaurant, only having enough room to fit 7 people with there being no food but the flaps. Compared to the blonde who looked as if he were in his late 20s, the owner was in his 60s. It has, Naruto. A bowl and chopsticks were set in front of him. It's been almost a year since you last came. How have things been on Nabu Island? The man picks up his chopsticks and stuck them in his noodles. Peaceful as usual. Just how I like it. With that, he stuffed the noodles in his mouth and began to slurp them until he was stopped by an explosion taking place behind him, surprising the two as Naruto just turns to be met with the sight of one pissed-off bunny high schooler. Found you, you blonde bastard! She shouted while pointing at the man who was sweat dropping in disbelief while the owner just looks at the ramen eater. What did you do? Nothing, but watched her face plant into a stop sign. Immediately the girl jumps straight at the blonde while swinging her right leg, aiming to deliver a roundhouse kick to knock him out as well as pay back, yet in an instant the man had moved by using his left arm to easily block the kick, causing her eyes to widen as his expression remained passive as he moved his arm to grab her leg and raise it, forcing to balance on her other leg. "You think that'll stop me?" She does a spin and swung her other leg at his face, yet he didn't move an inch to respond, before or after the kick made contact, causing her to just stare in disbelief as her kick just merely pressed into his neck while he just stared at her. "Done?" was all he said as he lets go of her leg, and in an instant he moves, having gotten behind her without her even realizing it before a single chop caused her to fall, yet was caught by Naruto, who simply sighs as he walks over to Tsuchi, placing her down on the chair. "Call you, eh? And let them know you found their student." After saying that, he turns his back to the owner. "I'm guessing the only way we can have a nice chat is if I took my vacation on Nabu Island, right?" A smirk was gained from the blonde. "I am the one in charge of keeping all the animals safe. As you know, with them having quirks they are always trying to be poached and sold." He turns around and waves. "But yeah, come visit the island anytime and we can have a nice chat, and not so fast." This caused Naruto's eyes to widen a little and turns to see the girl was awake, a little shaky yet standing ready as a clear smile was visible on her face. "Don't even to think about walking off." She was silenced at the man suddenly getting in front of her with unmatched speed, causing her eyes to widen as she looks up to meet his gaze before he kneels a little to be about her eye level. "Gotta say, you surprised me, didn't expect you would be up so soon." This caused her to blink in confusion, while Naruto smiles and stands up straight to look down at her. "So what's your name?" It took her a few seconds to register everything that's happened and show him a confident smile while pointing at him. "I'm the rabbit hero, Mirko." Her right first slams into her left palm. "And I'm the gal that's gonna teach you who do not mess with." Hearing such a thing, a small chuckle escapes his lips, surprising the girl and making her feel embarrassed, yet that turns to confusion as he turns around. "Let's meet again, perhaps one day," and without another word he was gone by a puff of smoke. 14 years later, at the docks of Nabu Island. "Okay, everyone assembled as you've instructed," shouted Tenya, who had saluted to a single teacher standing before the entirety of Class 1A who were selected for a special project that they weren't exactly informed about, more so still trying to figure out what exactly they came out here, except for the single fact that standing before them was the single pro-hero who took up the job, yet made it more questionable, as it was none other than Mirko, the rabbit hero, who stood with her fists on her hips. At this point, Momo finally spoke up while raising her hand to gain the rabbit hero's attention. We still haven't been told why we all came out here." Her question merely got her confident smile while she extended her right arm towards the island, showing much greenery, buildings near the dock, and ships all around them along the beach. "First, how much do you know about this island?" Her question surprised the group as they looked at each other until Koji suddenly raised a hand, gaining her attention. Koda, I believe?" Her question was followed by a nervous nod as he spoke up. "This is Nabu Island." The few students who didn't know the name were surprised as they too realized it. Known to be an isolated and peaceful small island, but also used to protect endangered animals born with Q quirks from being poached. A nod from the bunny hero was given while she turns to face the island. "Exactly, Class 1A. She points at them. "You guys will be staying here for a couple of weeks in place of the pros taking time off to see their families rather than the next shift. Your job will be to fill in their jobs, such as helping the civilians that live on the island and the animals dwelling on it as well. You won't be entirely by yourselves, as it was decided that since I am most familiar with the island, I would be acting as your teacher till you return to school." This got a reaction as many smiled and pumped their fists in the air in celebration of this. "Amazing! We get to do actual hero work. Yeah, let's go. This is gonna be great." Despite the celebrating, only a few didn't smile as they took this more seriously, which Mirko took note of Katsuki, Izuku, and Shoto before turning around, with the others turning to look at her back. "Despite me being in charge, I'm only gonna be here just in case something unexpected happens, so for now you all will rely on each other and figure out the problems." She took out her phone. "By now, you will all have the directions emailed to you along with the jobs needed to be filled in." Now, with all that said and done, she stops at seeing Ijiro raising his hand with a look of confusion upon his face as he started pointing at something. "Yeah, Spiky." Her smile instantly falters and twitches upon hearing the shout, "MOM." In an instant, Mirko turns in shock to find one bundle of joy running towards her, A child possessing tan skin, red eyes that are tilted slightly inwards, spiky white hair that appears to have grown down past his neck. And Nozomu, why are you here? You should be with your sister, and instantly she froze and slowly turns to see the entire class staring at her agape. You're a mom? Denki shouted in shock, much to her horror, but in the end, she sighs loudly and turns while placing the child down. Yeah, I'm a mom, what's it to ya? She gave a glare that caused them all to shut up while Katsuki started to sweat as she reminded him of his mother, all watching as she was scratching her head with a troubled expression but sighs again and turns to look at her son. Nozomu, why did you come here by yourself? She was slightly confused. Where's your father at? The child just stared at her before looking up with a finger on his chin. Dad's dealing with Arnold again. This caused her to facepalm in understanding. That damn cat again, huh? Come on, let's go see your papa. This caused him to brighten up as he takes his mother's hand and leads the way, which she turns to look at them all as they were still standing in the same spot. Do I have to kick you all or what? Follow me. You'll meet him by the end of the day either way, since he's the one in charge of operations involving endangered animals. This surprised the group, yet in the end they followed after her, letting her lead the way, and that being a house located next to a massive cage. So, this is Nabu Island, spoke to a newcomer of Pro Heroes Society walking off the deck of the boat she was standing on and onto the dock. Name, Rumi Yusujiyama / hero name, Rabbit Hero, Mirko / affiliation, Pro Heroes / age, 19 / graduate, UA high school. The hero just takes in the sights of the beach, dock, buildings, forests, and the very, very noticeable massive cage in the forested area that she took note of as being where the animals that have issues controlling their quirks go until they master it or become too much of a danger to people around them. Grrrr. A deep growl emanates from the small puppy-sized cage next to her, gaining an annoyed look from her as she glances at it and lifts it. It must be wearing off by now. I need to hurry. In an instant, Mirko's ear twitched as she felt danger all of a sudden and turns fast to find something standing, towering over her, which she looks up to be greeted by an anthropomorphic cat-like monster with light-colored fur. He has horizontal stripes across his back and tail and 3 vertical stripes that cross his forehead to the back of his head. Who are you? This caused the cat's eyes to narrow, making Mirko more ready for combat as she smiles as she watches the cat monster tilt its head before eyes widen and pats its head, confusing Mirko before something flew over her head, and landing next to the cat was a tall bird that resembles a phoenix of sorts. It had big green eyes, red and gold feathers, and purple tail feathers. Atop its head was a sort of officer's hat, and in its mouth was another. Left this back at base, Nyan. The cat takes the hat. Boss keeps telling you not to do that. You remember what happened with the last transport, don't you? At this point, Nyan puts the hat on and shrugs. Seriously, Birdbrain. The cat and the bird begin to walk, passing by the unmoving Mirko. I was put in charge to watch any intruders. Not my fault, my hat. He was stopped when the two heard a shout and turned to look at the annoyed Mirko, who glares at them, placing the cage down before pointing at them. Who the hell are you two? Her demand and the steel gaze she had caused the two to look at each other before back at her. Security. Bullshit. She punches her fist into her palm. You two don't give off any heroic vibe. That was malice I felt from ya. Her accusation caused the bird to look at the cat, who suddenly chuckles a little while scratching the back of his head sheepishly. Oops, this is why he reprimands you a lot, you make kids cry. Mirko just smiles until the 3 heard an explosion taking place with the ground shaking, and with that she felt it. Turning slowly, she was met with the pieces of the cage having exploded to reveal a large beast that didn't even look like an animal but a monster. It was entirely black with 6 eyes, each one ruby in color. Its mouth revealed large fangs and its feet had 4 toes per paw. Its fur is very shaggy and roughed up. It had no tongue, ears, or nose. Grower. As it growled in anger, Mirko's eyes narrow while turning to face the beast. Crap, it took all might to keep that thing in. She stops to see it opening its maw to reveal a light, which alerts Mirko as she knew what that meant, and immediately goes to attack until she felt it. An all-too-familiar feeling that caused the bird and cat to freeze along with the beast to stop all actions of attack as it slowly looked up as if seeing the form of what was true horror, true malice. Mirko couldn't even move her body as she too was affected until it cut off, which she snaps out of it to see the beast had returned to its dog's size and hiding behind its paws. Well, this is a surprise. Mirko felt his body moving to turn before she realized it. Been a while, kid. though it's more appropriate to call you Hero, Rabbit Hero Mirko. The one to have said it was Naruto standing there with the bird and cat, both making way for the man who was walking towards her. Blonde bastard. Flashback /inside at the HQ of the Endangered Species / Quirk Animal Sanctuary. Well, what they stood in front of was a massive cage that was miles long in width while also being quite high as well, and next to that was a large house separated into a living area and a vet hospital. This is where they keep the animals that have uncontrollable quirks that would cause problems, Mirko said while walking forwards. He's most likely inside. She was stopped as they all heard a loud crash inside the house. Damn it, Arnold, calm down. You need to take why stop multiplying. Mia, I'm not a scratching post. Mia, fine. Wait, I forgot to buy catnip. I knew I should have checked to see if I had the yarn and catnip ready. They heard the shouts soon being overcome by the meows. The students began to sweat drop while Mirko starts to sweat with her expression turning to great annoyance with her son looking worried until they saw something at the top and they began looking up to see a child around Nozomu's age staring at them, and in her arms is an all-too-familiar six-eyes dog beast. The girl had tan skin, red eyes, long eyelashes, and straight blonde hair reaching down past her waist. Suki, Mirko called and watched as the girl instantly hid her head. What have I told you about letting your younger brother go off on his own? That question caused her to look up, appearing to put up a front. Not to do that, her response came while avoiding eye contact with her mom who had a steel gaze. And what did you do? Let him go on his own. The students didn't know what to make of this as they watched the hero's side just before they all jolt at hearing a loud slam coming from the door followed by many scratching sounds. The students began to get a bad feeling. More so Kuji as the door flies open to unleash an army of cats meowing as they scampered out of the house. Shocking many at the number, but more so the fact the cats didn't run away but instead encircled the large group, avoiding Mirko and Nozomu to instead focus on the students. Oh, Mina extended a hand out which a cat happily jumps into her arms, snuggling into her. They're adorable. She just smiles while Ochako, Kyuka, Momo, Tsuyu, and Tura had the same thing happen to them as they held the cats climbing on them and getting into their arms, all adorable like that. Was until they noticed the males. Get these damn cats off me! Katsuki, like the rest of the guys, were being viciously attacked by the biting and clawing cats. More so Katsuki, that seemed to be a magnet as most of the cats attacked him, even some jumping off the other students just to swarm the blonde to jump and claw on him. This gained smirks and a couple of chuckles, though they couldn't laugh much as they too were being assaulted by the nightmares, which Mirko sighs at, wondering when the one in charge will end this until something surprising happened. Please stop and calm down. It was with that order from Kuji that caused Mirko's eyes to widen as she too heard it with her bunny ears twitching, turning to look at the student before back to see all the cats had stopped what they were doing to look and stare at the student that had spoken to them. Damn these cats! Shouted Katsuki as he pulled them off of himself with some jumping off by choice. I'm gonna turn them all to a... He was silenced as a ball of yarn collided with the back of his head, instantly caused all the cats to turn and charge towards it but disperse as they combined into a single cat that tackles the ball. Meanwhile the student, covered in scratches, turns in anger at who threw that but stops to see a blonde-haired man wearing a lab coat standing at the door. Found the yarn under the couch. He was stopped by Mirko suddenly launching herself at Naruto with her legs pulled back, yet he instantly turns to the right and dodge, which she lands on her feet, shocking all the students at what they just saw with Katsuki left hanging with his anger. Why was Nozomu by himself? She plants a finger into the man's chest accusingly. I sent you a clear message to watch our kids because we would be having SDU. She was cut off by the lifting of a phone showing what she last sent, and it was within seeing distance of a few, causing both girls and boys to blush as the last thing that was sent was Mirko in a sexy bunny. Immediately the hero grabs the phone and chucks it into the open door with a deep blush. My phone, the man said in a sad tone while the hero turns quickly, blushing with a glare. And no one saw what was on the P-phone, right? Her question immediately gained an awkward silence as the ones who saw the said picture was looking away with a blush on their faces, causing her to sigh in despair. Ah, great. Today can't possibly be any worse. Despite seeing this, Naruto smiles and even laughs a little, which wants the wrath of the hero who glares at him while he held his hands up. Don't you start to laugh. I may have forgotten to message you, but I'm pretty sure I told you last month. This starts to cause him to look guilty while she pokes his chest again. Besides, with your hearing, you should have figured things out. This caused him to look away, completely guilty. I was busy with the cat. You could have just shown it who's boss, and cause every animal in the cage to go whimpering, rather not have to calm every one of them down. As the two had their conversation, the students didn't know what to make of this until she felt a tug and turns to look down, meeting Nozomu's gaze before at the students who were all strong at them. At this point, Suki had made her way downstairs and out the door to stand next to Naruto. This is my daughter. Suki motions to the girl standing next to Naruto, her gaze getting suspicious at Katsuki due to a certain news report. And my husband, Naruto Uzumaki. At this point, the man raises a hand with a friendly smile. Hey, at this point, Tenya immediately stands up straight and spoke. I am Tenya Ida. I am the class president of Class 1A. He didn't break his eye contact with Naruto. If you have any questions about our class, I'll be happy. He was stopped by the man raising a hand in a stopping motion. You don't have to. From what I have seen, you all will be helping out the residents of the island, with only a select few staying with me to tend with the animals. This surprised a few of them as he spoke and looks at Mirko, motioning her to bring the kids inside, which she did, chatting with the two siblings while doing so as she shuts the door behind her with Naruto staring at the door. They're my pride and joy. When he suddenly said that, he surprised them. If not for Mirko, I would have been quite the lonely guy not having a goal. There is but one rule while you stay on this island. At that point, he turns to display a serious expression that caught them off guard. No matter what, none of you will ever speak of this. This confused yet worried them at the glare he was displaying. It is a silent agreement with the island that no one will tell another breathing soul off this island about my relationship with Mirko and our two kids. I work hard to keep my family safe and a secret to those that would aim for our kids to hurt Mirko. I tell you this for one reason. At this point, something drastically changed that furthered the dread in the air, shocking the students as they felt it, and couldn't speak, yet none were as affected as Izuku, Tenya, Shudo, Momo, and Kirishima. Those five were frozen in place as they sweat, with their eyes going completely wide, having been consumed with an all-so-familiar feeling they haven't felt since the Kamino incident. If villains come, it will be a massacre the likes of which haven't been seen since the war 100 years ago. As he spoke, Izuku was holding his breath as he wanted to vomit just how close it was. Shudo was visibly twitching as he's forced to relive that day once more. Kirishima felt his will slowly crumbling. Tenya felt his knees beginning to lose their strength. Momo was already on the verge of tears. Unlike the rest who were visibly shaken at his words, it was those five that were terrified. Despite the malice being suppressed, it was the wall breaker. During the microsecond a little was released to have the five forced to relive that day once again. Before they stood not a man but a monster comparable to all. For one, the thought of him being more dangerous was just incomprehensible for them to comprehend. With that, Naruto turns as the atmosphere returns to normal. That is the one warning I will give you. Naruto turns around and picks up the shaking cat that didn't refuse his hands along with the yarn and heads for the door. Once I give Arnold his medication, I'll tell you who goes where. As he spoke, he made his way to the door and opens it, yet simply looks back, most notably at Izuku, who could only stare at those blood-red eyes that stared into his soul before it was broken by the door shutting. What the? Katsuki was silenced as he and the rest watched as Izuku, Tenya, Shudo, Momo, and Kirishima dropped to their knees as they shook, shocking the rest, who ran to the side to comfort them as they tried to understand what happened, believing it was a quirk. But to those five, they knew the truth of what had stood before them. We must never anger him, or he'll kill us all. So how have things been, Mirko? With a cup of ramen in one hand and a plate of a couple of carrots in the other, he sets them at a table. It's been a few years since we last met. He sits down in front of the annoyed pro who wore casual clothing. Not even answering, she takes the carrot and plops it in her mouth while still holding her steel gaze, causing a bead of sweat to fall from his face. Meanwhile, a few animals were simply moving around the house, such as a cat, dog, rabbit, a few speeding mice, and a parrot that seems to be speaking slurs to another parrot. Is there a problem? He got his answer when she bit off the end of the carrot, and abruptly pulled the larger half out of her mouth and points at him. You straight up left me in the middle of our fight. She was glaring daggers at the man who was slurping the ramen with chopsticks. First you caught my kick, then took my kick without dodging, and finally you tried to knock me out. I've been trying to find you for over a year for a rematch, but no, you were gone without a trace. The blonde at this point could see the glare she was delivering him at the stress he's caused her, yet Naruto stopped slurping after finishing his bowl and stared at her. Didn't you try assaulting me twice? This time her eyes widen in surprise. I almost get hit by a car, and when I was trying to help the old man out you attacked me, miss. And face smack right into a stop sign, which was funny by the way. He smiles at seeing her blush in embarrassment, standing up angrily as she was trying to think of a response while the man used his arm as leverage. Either way, I did say let's meet again. Perhaps one day. Mirko's eyes widen as he stood up. So how about we have a spar? The basement has a training room if you want to try it out later today. I've got some stuff to take care of here. This caused her eyes to widen before a smile forms on her face, filled with excitement as she points at him. You on Whiskers? She turns her back to him. 700 sharp. You better prepare yourself because I'm not gonna lose like last time. She quickly starts heading for the door after picking up her suitcase that had her hero's suit in it. Plans? His question was met with a smile. I'd rather not damage my hero suit when I'm kicking your ass. Gonna go to town and see if a store has something I can wear. After that was said, she had exited out of the house by the front door that shuts behind her, leaving Naruto with the animals just before he recalled something. Did she just call me Whiskers? As he thought about the nickname, his eyes widened a little. Whiskers, it's the nickname I thought for you. His expression was reduced to one that was very bothered as he turns his face towards one of the photos on the wall, having a crack along with, but it showed a group in it wearing the same uniform of a camo shirt and jeans, appearing to be a military photo, along with the fact in it had him looking a little younger by a few years, sporting short red hair and blue eyes next to a woman with dark blue hair. Hinata was the single thought he had before standing up just as he looks down to see a cat was hugging his leg, causing him to smile as he rubs its head. Been a while since I spared with another, muttered the blonde who wore a black tank top that had an orange swirl located on the right side of his chest, followed by a pair of orange shorts. The room he stood in was a large basement with a high ceiling. Within it was not risking weights or anything but space, along with the walls being layered with some kind of metal. It was at this time he heard footsteps from the stairs and turns as he saw a shadow descending towards the floor, which he merely smiles until his eyes widen. Nice, room's big enough so it'll work. Spoke to a smiling roomie who was leaking into the room wearing a black sports bra with a purple edge along with black fitness booty shorts also having a purple outline. A single look was all it took to tell she was physically fit as well as. Naruto seemed to shake his head as if denying the thoughts that traveled through it while the hero stood in front of him. You ready or what? A fist slams into her palm. Not gonna end like last time. When she spoke those words, the blonde just smiles at her confidence she was displaying to him. We'll see. He enters a stance. You can star. She immediately made her move. Luna! Mirko launched herself right at Naruto, whose eyes shot wide at how fast she was, now in front of him with her right leg raised high. Arc. She brought it down just as Naruto took a step back and the heel of her foot barely touched his nose, missing her front-facing axe kick. She's improved and not playing around. At this point, he moves fast to get behind her, yet was met with a cartwheel kick in the air with her legs extended, slamming into his arms and moving them down. Gotcha! The moment her feet touched the ground, she had launched herself close quarters, her speed shocking Naruto at how much she's improved as she swings her foot downwards while above him, driving Naruto down on the floor at the strength of her kick. That all you got? She sported a big smile, seeing that she was winning against the man she lost to 3 years ago, who was now laying on the floor in front of her. But at this point, her eyes widened as she felt it, and with it, he began to stand up with bones cracking. You have gotten better though. At this point, his appearance took a change as his teeth became more loose canines, his hair getting spikier as it grew, and most notably a single tail was seen. That was because I haven't been using my quirk. This got a bigger smile from the girl who prepared to fight until the two heard something in turn. Oh look! Spoke to a parrot that was going into Mirko's bag and pulled out a phone. Something to break. This surprised them as Mirko glares at the animal and heard a crack from the phone. Hey, that's mine! She quickly runs for the bird that drops it on the floor and makes a break for it as it flew out through the doorway. Damn it, Jack, why do? Naruto was stopped mid-sentence at the bird's need to destroy things with his metal beak quirk for a single reason that caught him to stare. Damn it! Rumi was standing in front of him bent over, grasping her phone to stare in dismay at her cracked screen, and, at that moment she was already turning to look at the blonde only to be met with wide eyes and a blush. Despite it being a mere millisecond, she was almost positive Naruto was staring at her ass as the blonde quickly turned away with his tail returning into his body and features retuning to normal. The sight of this caused her face to turn a little red, yet she does her best to push that aside and smug as she turns to Naruto and approaches the guy who was avoiding eye contact. So, you like staring at young pro hero's ass, huh? She displayed a smile while elbowing the blonde who was already sweating. I was admiring your tail. Naruto was sweating more at what he said while Rumi's smile grew. My tail, huh? An idea sparked in her head. That's located above my ass. She could see his inability to look at her, which she decides to turn to show him her butt. If you like to admire my tail so much, want a feel of it, it's quite fluffy. At that point, his blush turned him into a tomato as he immediately turns away. Spar is over. He begins to walk towards the door of the stairs but stops. I'm gonna take a shower before I get your boat ride ready so you can return to the city. With that said, he disappears from view as he starts walking up the steps, leaving the hero by herself as she was left alone with her thoughts. Now that I think about it, he must have been in his early 20s when we met. Her thoughts began to lead her down a new path. It's been a 4-year gap between us, but I'm 19. She turns to look at the stairs as a blush sticks to her face as she felt embarrassed. Now that I think about it, there's an opening for shifts for pro heroes who can take part in watching the island and the sanctuary as security. Flashback /inside at the HQ of the endangered species /quirk animal sanctuary. Plop. Sigh. Naruto sat at his desk, leaning back into it with a hand resting under his chin as he stared at the entire Class 1A who was looking around the large room, while 5 specific students were very uncomfortable as they watched Naruto pick up a clipboard. I only need a few of you to help with the animals, so the rest that I did not. The state will follow Mirko to the hero building to begin your work. His gaze looks at the group as he looks back down. Kuji Kuda and Katsuki Bakugu, you two will be staying here to help me out. In an instant that got a reaction as Kuji became surprised that he picked, while just like Katsuki, almost everyone wondered why he would choose Katsuki of all the students to help with animals. Why me? The hothead slams his hands on the table much to his classmates' shock. Taking care of animals is not my thing, so leave me out of it. His eyes met Naruto's and Izuku was already sweating at his childhood friend with his gaze turning to Naruto, but they widened at seeing a clear smile upon his face. Arnold seems to have taken a liking for you, so if something happens I can use you as a means to deal with the cat. This caused the others to think one single thought. He's just using his as a distraction. Katsuki grits his teeth and turns away while crossing his arms in great annoyance, while Kuji nods towards Naruto in understanding. I'll do my best. Despite being nervous at the man sitting before him, he still held courage. Sir, Naruto smiles in response at hearing that. Someone with your personality and quirk can help out a lot with troublemakers in the cage. I'll depend on you to help out with their issues. He opens his desk and pulls out a separate clipboard that he extends to the student. This is the list of animals that have issues and like to cause problems for civilians. I want you to ask them about their issues, and depending on what kind of issue it is, I would like you to write it down. The student nods as he takes it, with Naruto turning to the rest of them. You all can go now. Mirko is waiting for you outside, and please. This time he puts up a tried expression. Keep an eye on my kids. My son likes to explore, and my daughter, how you would say, sticks it to the man. At this point, Tenya stands tall as he saluted Naruto. Yes, sir. Despite what he felt before, he forced himself to make eye contact with Naruto. I'll make sure we of Class 1A will do our best while here. They were cut off by hearing shouting in the room behind them. Arnold, my nemesis, we meet again. Miura. Naruto immediately face-bombs while a scuffle was heard until a couple of loud crashes were heard, then silence, as the door flew open to reveal a struggling Arnold gnawing on the hand of a much larger cat man that held it. It was shocking to them, followed by another behind the being. This is Nyan and Phoenix. Naruto stood up and introduced the 2 inhuman animals. These 2 can be placed in the same category as your principal, but at a higher level. They are security for those who enter the island without permission. You all will be taking orders for them whenever one of the jobs around the island involves them. This has surprised the students, who stare at the cat being simply given a wave. Nice to meet Naya. A hand was extended to Tenya. I look forward to working with upcoming heroes, Naya. This immediately gained a few blushes from the girls. So cute, he says Naya at the end of his sentences. The boost hero in training simply takes his hand and shakes it. And I too as well, sir. Tenya smiles at the humanoid cat, whose eyes narrow a little as his smile increases, as he suddenly pulls Tenya, much to his surprise and the confusion of the other at the Nyan was now face to face much closer. By the way, how is little Nizu? This now confused Tenya while Naruto's eyes narrow. I haven't seen him since I gave him a nice cut on his eye for disobeying the master's orders. He was cut off as Phoenix suddenly pecks him in the side, gaining his attention. What the hell was that for Phoenix? I was just... Nyan stopped as he realized his mistake and turned slowly towards Naruto while the others turned to see the man had a very annoyed expression. Nyan, what have I told you about asking that question? His eyes narrowed at the cat who appeared to be frightened. People aren't supposed to know about Nizu's past, you know what that means. Immediately the cat starts shaking his head in fear while Arnold bit as hard as he could, and that got Nyan to let go as Arnold dashed to hide behind one of the girls as they watched Nyan fall to his knees. And master, for the love of God please don't consider that. He fell to deaf ears as Naruto showed a terrifying smile that unnerved the students. Nyan, you are ordered to take a bubble bath and Phoenix is in charge of it. And just like that, the cat was shaking his head, unlike Phoenix who was just enjoying this. I'll let just talks things. Oh, Phoenix was already pulling him by the tail with his beak and out the door, dragging the cat who was leaving claw marks on the floor. I don't like baths. Please forgive me. As his shouting continued, he was dragged out the door and out of the house, still screaming for the impending bubble bath of doom. At this point, all the students didn't comprehend what the hell they just saw with Naruto sitting down. If you work with Nyan, carry a spray bottle. As he spoke, the students tried to make sense, but the simple fact remains that their principal came from this sanctuary, and with it more questions on who Naruto exactly was. Yet Katsuki just stares at him, his eyes narrowing as a single thought came to mind. Why does he look so familiar? Tucci stood there, dumbfounded a little as what can be seen obviously to almost anyone except for the ones standing before him. It was winter time with only some snowfall was happening, with snowflakes falling from the night sky with the sun having just set. Sorry, Tucci, spoke none other than Naruto, who stood in front of him wearing a winter jacket next to one Rumi, also wearing a jacket with earmuffs on her rabbit ears. Yet the older man just blinks as he took in what he sees. I know you're closing and all, but mind making a couple bowls for us? I'll double the... He was cut off by the man eagerly shaking his head. No need. He quickly turns while turning up the heat. I'll prepare your bowl right away. With that said, he runs in the back, which Naruto just blinks in surprise before raising an eyebrow while Rumi just glanced at him. Whiskers, I know you said you'll buy food. Naruto just shakes his head, displaying a smile while looking at her. There was a lot of paperwork Niza had for me with the recent activity of the animals being transferred. If not for you, I would have stayed overnight to finish it, so this is my thanks. In response, she just looks away while fidgeting a little before seeing Naruto enter, which she did the same quickly so both can stay warm with the heater inside despite it not being so cold outside. It didn't take them long to get their bowl, but a couple of minutes, and thanks to the heater and the hot bowl of ramen they got, the bunny hero felt quite warm, unlike the blonde who was unaffected by the cold, only wearing a winter jacket, otherwise he would draw attention. It was during the slurping of the ramen, Naruto finally witnessed Rumi's first time tasting this restaurant ramen, having only come here before in the past searching for Naruto, and not bothering to buy a bowl. Well shit, muttered the white-haired hero upon slurping up her first few noodles. It's good. It was after saying this she realized something. Glancing to her left, she got a look of a smirking Naruto. Told you so, guess you lost the bet. Shut up, you're lucky I'm considering only doing half of the bet. Oh, so you're walking out half of the bet? Hey, you think giving those animals baths is easy? That damn pup of yours turned invisible just to avoid a bath. Of course, it's not that easy. It's not me doing it after all. It was with this conversation. Rumi was now glaring at the blonde, who was smiling back since the animals seemed to obey and not go against Naruto. Unlike with Rumi, they act out knowing they can. Ahaha, the laugh caught their attention. To see Tucci, this may be the first time I've ever seen you bring someone else with you here. This caught them by surprise as Naruto just looks up in wonder if that were true, unlike Rumi, who seems happy at hearing that, but she immediately stops upon seeing the old man smiling a little wider while staring at her, causing her to avoid his gaze with a blush appearing on her face. Now that I think about it, this caused the two to look at him questionably, more so from Naruto. If memory serves me right, wasn't there a police report a couple of years ago about a middle school student crashing several fight clubs in Hiroshima? This caused her eyes to bug out while Naruto glances at her with a raised eyebrow. I believe she was named the legendary schoolgirl hooligan, bunny-eared Yusako? At this point, she was desperately trying to avoid Naruto's gaze but knew for a fact he had a smart-ass smile on his face. Funny, I recall the same thing. Oh, shut it. Rumi crosses her arms while looking away from the two towards her right. I wanted some action, and besides I stopped after doing that. At this her expression becomes solemn. I've caused enough problems for my parents when I did that. Being taken into custody, and having the name of my school being exposed, got me not only me expelled, but also my dad fired from his job as a police officer. At this point, Naruto could see she was bothered and puts down the bowl, yet despite this the old man watched this before speaking up. So, changing the subject, the owner draws their attention once more. Shigatsu, New Year's is in a few days. How will you two be celebrating it? This seemed to snap Rumi out of it, but she didn't look at Naruto, who spoke. Same as last year, working. Rumi's eyes widen as she looks at Naruto, who saw her gaze. I help prepare the New Year's festival for the residents of the island. Since they have family coming in, it gets pretty big every year, as we also have fireworks that are set off. After explaining that, he looks at Rumi. So, you spending it with your family? That question gained a surprising response as she looks down at her empty bowl. No, this took Naruto by surprise, with Tsuchi just turns away. I'll be right back, need to get something. With that said, he walks in the back with the door shutting behind him, yet immediately he ducks and presses his ear into the door, listening in. Wait, if you're not spending it with your family, then you'll be working then. This got a shake of the head that pretty much confused the blonde, who tilts his head before they widen and he smiles. Wait, does that mean you got yourself a boy? He stops when he saw her eyes shot open, turning towards him fast as she spoke. No, it's not that, but I wanted to ask. She caught herself and grits her teeth before turning away, her face getting redder, as she didn't know exactly how to speak, as this was a first for her. Meanwhile, Naruto just stared at her in wonder, watching her take a deep breath, and turns to Naruto with the blush still on her face. What would you say at this point? Naruto for a first witnessed a vulnerable look on her face. If I could spend New Year's with you. That single question entered Naruto's mind as he stared at her before slowly his eyes widened by the second, and with it, something starting making sense. Over the months they worked together, and at this point, along with his eyes, his face started turning red as they stared at each other. Meanwhile, hearing this whole thing was a smiling Tsuchi, who leaned against the door with a smile as he recalled when he was younger. A teenager, in fact over 40 years ago, when he met Naruto, who looked a little younger during the grand opening week of his restaurant. Despite being small, it was quite popular where they met the night during when it was almost closing. Flashback /inside at the HQ of the endangered species /quirk animal sanctuary. Get the hell off me! Screamed one angered Katsuki, who was dealing with Arnold currently attacking him with the clones. I don't have the catnip, so leave me alone. Mio! The army declared its war cry upon the blonde, who had the cats jumping all over him, while Koji was standing there, trying to convince the cats to stop until the second ball of yarn came rolling by, gaining all the cats' attention once again before they charged towards it while dispersing, for they combined into a single cat that tackles the ball, again, leaving Katsuki covered in more scratches and bite marks as he glared at the animal that was playing with the ball of yarn. I'm going to kill that? He stopped at feeling something hard hit the back of his head and turns to see Naruto holding a clipboard. Found where I was hiding the balls of yarn. He motions towards the box in his other hand, which he hands Katsuki. He'll be dealt with for a while until they unwind. More yarn and catnip is currently on back order. His attention turns to Koji. So Koda, how you like it so far here? This caused him to blink in surprise before he looks around. They were in the cage that took the shape of a forest with multiple paths around them intersecting with the trees all around. Due to the cage itself and the trees, it was quite shady where they were, with sunlight peering in, along with the fact there were built-in lampposts along the paths. It was later in the afternoon, with the sun beginning to near setting, along with the fact the lamps were on, and with it the ground was alit, displaying arrows towards the main exit. I love it! The student smiles brightly. I've never seen so many unique animals before, possessing all kinds of quirks. His words got Naruto to smile in response to hearing that, scratching the back of his head sheepishly. Wasn't easy, I tell ya. Naruto moves his gaze on Arnold, continuing to roll with the yarn. Some of these guys are quite a handful, like Arnold here. After saying that, his gaze then rests on Katsuki, who was walking away with a pissed-off expression. Where are you? He was cut off by the student, who turns with a glare focused on Naruto. Shut it, you whiskered bastard! He turns his entire body to point at the man in charge. I've wasted enough time here already, and dealing with these stupid animals is a pain in the ass. I'm leaving. It was after saying that, Koji's eyes widen, and turns towards Naruto, yet he just froze as he just sees him smile. It wasn't a normal smile, but one of a beast smiling at its prey, as if toying with its food. I see, then let's make a deal. This got the student's attention from him turning towards his direction after stopping. A little fight perhaps. If you win you can do what you want and I won't report you to Rumi. This surprised the student, who then smiles and turns to Naruto. Now you've got my attention. But if you think, Katsuki's smile dies as Naruto points at him. But if I win, for the rest of your time here you will obey me without question, agreed? This surprised Katsuki, but he just smiles in response before Naruto turns around. Change out of the hero costume into your regular clothing. If you got one you can fight me in. He walks in the direction of the exit. Follow me, in response. The student did so, leaving Koji, who was very unsure until he heard it talk amongst the animals who were watching. He's dead. The king is most likely going to toy with him. The king is most likely bored. It's been less than a month since the king made short work of that poacher. Wonder if he will bury the body by the ocean or in the ground this time? As he heard those words, Koji felt a chill run up his spine as he heard all of it, feeling the fear emanating from them as the student was given a clearer look at Naruto. Didn't expect the basement to be this big, muttered one student who stood in basically a large underground training room with weight laying on racks with the walls being protected as well. While he was stretching, he looks at the owner of the room, Naruto, who stood in the center with a smile. He wore a sleeveless tank top and shorts, both being black with having the design of red clouds with white outlines on them. Katsuki's outfit was similar to his own due to also wearing a sleeveless tank top and shorts. The room is big enough and can handle your explosions, Naruto began upon seeing Katsuki approach after his stretches. Just try not using too large ones or it'll become a hazard for both of us, since I've seen how big you can make. As he heard that, Katsuki just stares at Naruto, who was simply relaxed. You're gonna regret thinking of this, you blonde bastard. His gaze hardens, unlike Naruto's, who just smiles. I'm not gonna pull any punches. Like you said, anything goes. As if hearing a bell ring, he extends his arms back as he unleashed his explosives from the palms to send him directly for Naruto, who just stood there. Dai! As he screamed that, he was already swinging his right arm towards Naruto's direction after cutting it with the explosions in the hand, planning to send him crashing into the wall. Until it happened, Naruto's relaxed expression turns to disappointment, and with it Katsuki in the next found himself flying back. Huh! His body hits the ground with roll, yet even so he quickly got up but found his center of balance shaken. While at that moment he felt the impact as he touched his face, and the moment he pulled it away he saw seen blood. You left yourself wide open, kid. Naruto proceeds to tap his elbow with an unimpressed expression. You were in the air while focusing your big attack on a single hand. All I did was brush the arm away and strike you in the face. His words registered to Katsuki, who grits his teeth and ignored the pain and blood leaking from his nose. Shut up. With a single arm pointed behind, he unleashed a single explosion to send him up above before a second sent him down straight towards him, yet instead of blocking he humored the student and starts backing up fast to dodge the next explosion, focused on breaking his fall as to attack Naruto, but he was already out of range while he was backing up, giving the hothead a chance as he launched himself a second time at Naruto with both arms prepared to strike. Katsuki's words got stuck in his throat at the man's sudden change of movement from backing up to doing a 180 as his center of gravity changed immediately, as he was now charging forward towards the student, who recalled the elbow and unleashed a double explosion, yet he witnessed Naruto suddenly change directions mid-dash to evade the explosion. Stop moving! He quickly directed focus on his right arm, planning to unleash a wide-range explosion with his hand already alit, yet Naruto was faster, as he got close enough and grabbed Katsuki's wrist, forcing his arm to point in the other direction, yet instead of unleashing an explosion, he followed up his attack with a kick for Naruto's face that caused him to let go as he suddenly leaned back to dodge it. Seeing this as his chance, Katsuki brought both arms forwards as they were once again alit, but in that second of release he froze. Upon meeting Naruto's gaze he could not only see but feel the disappointment. Katsuki came back to reality upon seeing Naruto had grabbed Katsuki's right wrist in his moment of weakness. Disappointed. At this moment, Naruto twisted his arm in such a way he found himself on one knee before having a chop hit his neck. resulting in Katsuki's vision starting to fade as the teen was falling black. But as he stared at Naruto, his eyes widened in disbelief as he finally recalled where he had seen Naruto. As he thought that, Katsuki recalled a picture frame in his parents' room. It was during the war over 100 years ago, which had his great-grandfather, Garu Bakugo, standing in it with his team that fought in the war as a special unit of quirk users. That team having a member looking identical to Naruto, if not a little younger, with red hair and blue eyes. He could no longer think on it as his vision faded and he hit the ground with some blood leaking from his mouth while his nose still bled a little, yet Naruto just stared down at him. He wasn't taught the water stream rock smashing fist? Naruto places a hand on his chin. I fought Garu's daughter and even she gave me quite a fight, yet why wasn't he taught the style? I know his mother is alive, so why? Naruto's eyes narrow as he didn't like the fact something prevented the student from learning the martial arts style. Water stream rock smashing fist. My gramps gave it that pain in the ass name. A sigh escapes Naruto's mouth as he approaches the downed student and picks him up over his shoulder.